I Am That. Talks with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. Chapter 59. Desire and Fear, Self-Centered States. Desire and fear, both are self-centered states. Between desire and fear, anger arises. With anger, hatred, and with hatred, passion for destruction. War is hatred in action, organized and equipped with all the instruments of death. Questioner. I would like to go again into the question of pleasure and pain, desire and fear. I understand fear, which is memory and anticipation of pain. It is essential for the preservation of the organism and its living pattern. Needs, when felt, are painful, and their anticipation is full of fear. We are rightly afraid of not being able to meet our basic needs. The relief experienced when a need is met or an anxiety allayed is entirely due to the ending of pain. We may give it positive names like pleasure, joy, or happiness, but essentially it is the relief from pain. It is this fear of pain that holds together our social, economic, and political institutions. What puzzles me is that we derive pleasure from things and states of mind which have nothing to do with survival. On the contrary, our pleasures are usually destructive. They damage or destroy the object, the instrument, and also the subject of pleasure. Otherwise, pleasure and pursuit of pleasure would be no problem. This brings me to the core of my question. Why is pleasure destructive? Why, in spite of its destructiveness, it is wanted? I may add that I do not have in mind the pleasure-pain pattern by which nature compels us to go her way. I'm thinking of the man-made pleasures, both sensory and subtle, ranging from the grossest, like overeating, to the most refined. Addiction to pleasure, at whatever cost, is so universal that there must be something significant at the root of it. Of course, not every activity of man must be utilitarian, designed to meet a need. Play, for example, is natural, and man is the most playful animal in existence. Play fulfills the need for self-discovery and self-development, but even in his play, man becomes destructive of nature, others, and himself. Maharaj. In short, you do not object to pleasure, but only to its price in pain and sorrow. Questioner. If reality itself is bliss, then pleasure in some way must be related to it. Maharaj. Let us not proceed by verbal logic. The bliss of reality does not exclude suffering. Besides, you know only pleasure, not the bliss of pure being. So let us examine pleasure at its own level. If you look at yourself in your moments of pleasure or pain, you will invariably find that it is not the thing in itself that is pleasant or painful, but the situation of which it is a part. Pleasure lies in the relationship between the enjoyer and the enjoyed, and the essence of it is acceptance. Whatever may be the situation, if it is acceptable, it is pleasant. If it is not acceptable, it is painful. What makes it acceptable is not important. The cause may be physical, psychological, or untraceable. Acceptance is the decisive factor. Adversely, suffering is due to non-acceptance. Questioner. Pain is not acceptable. Maharaj. Why not? Did you ever try? Do try, and you will find in pain a joy which pleasure cannot yield, for the simple reason that acceptance of pain takes you much deeper than pleasure does. The personal self, by its very nature, is constantly pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain. The ending of this pattern is the ending of the self. The ending of the self with its desires and fears enables you to return to your real nature, the source of all happiness and peace. The perennial desire for pleasure is the reflection of the timeless harmony within. It is an observable fact that one becomes self-conscious only when caught in the conflict between pleasure and pain, which demands choice and decision. It is this clash between desire and fear that causes anger, which is the great destroyer of sanity in life. When pain is accepted for what it is, a lesson and a warning, and deeply looked into and heeded, the separation between pain and pleasure breaks down, and both become experience, painful when resisted, joyful when accepted. Questioner: do you advise shunning pleasure and pursuing pain? Maharaj: no, nor pursuing pleasure and shunning pain. Accept both as they come, enjoy both while they last. Let them go as they must. Questioner: how can I possibly enjoy pain? Physical pain calls for action. Maharaj: of course, and so does mental pain. The bliss is in the awareness of it and in not shrinking or in any way turning away from it. All happiness comes from awareness. The more we are conscious, the deeper the joy, acceptance of pain, non-resistance, courage, and endurance. These open deep and perennial sources of real happiness, true bliss. Questioner: why should pain be more effective than pleasure? Maharaj: pleasure is readily accepted, while all the powers of the self reject pain. As the acceptance of pain is the denial of the self, and the self stands in the way of true happiness, the wholehearted acceptance of pain releases the springs of happiness. Questioner: does the acceptance of suffering act the same way? Maharaj: the fact of pain is easily brought within the focus of awareness. With suffering, it is not that simple. To focus on suffering is not enough for mental life as we know it. One continuous stream of suffering. Let me read that again. To focus on suffering is not enough for mental life as we know it. It is one continuous stream of suffering. To reach the deeper layers of suffering, you must go to its roots and uncover their vast underground network, where fear and desire are closely interwoven, and the currents of life's energy oppose, obstruct, and destroy each other. Questioner: how can I set right a tangle which is entirely below the level of my consciousness? Maharaj: by being with yourself, the I am, by watching yourself in your daily life with alert interest, with the intention to understand rather than to judge, in full acceptance of whatever may emerge, because it is there you encourage the deep to come to the surface and enrich your life and consciousness with its captive energies. This is the great work of awareness. It removes obstacles and releases energies by understanding the nature of life and mind. Intelligence is the door to freedom, and alert attention is the mother of intelligence. Questioner. One more question. Why does pleasure end in pain? Maharaj. Everything has a beginning and an end, and so does pleasure. Don't anticipate and don't regret, and there will be no pain. It is memory and imagination that cause suffering. Of course, pain after pleasure may be due to the misuse of the body or the mind. The body knows its measure, but the mind does not. Its appetites are numberless and limitless. Watch your mind with great diligence, for there lies your bondage and also the key to freedom. Questioner. My question is not yet fully answered. Why are man's pleasures destructive? Why does he find so much pleasure in destruction? Life's concern lies in protection, perpetuation, and expansion of itself. In this, it is guided by pain and pleasure. At what point do they become destructive? Maharaj. When the mind takes over, remembers, and anticipates, it exaggerates, it distorts, it overlooks. The past is projected into the future, and the future betrays expectations. The organs of sensation and action are stimulated beyond capacity, and they inevitably break down. The objects of pleasure cannot yield what is expected of them, and get worn out or destroyed by misuse. This results in excess of pain where pleasure was looked for. Questioner. We destroy not only ourselves, but others too, Maharaj. Naturally, selfishness is always destructive. Desire and fear both are self-centered states. Between desire and fear, anger arises. With anger, hatred, and with hatred, passion for destruction. War is hatred in action, organized and equipped with all the instruments of death. Questioner. Is there a way to end these horrors? Maharaj. When more people come to know their real nature, their influence, however subtle, will prevail and the world's emotional atmosphere will sweeten. People follow their leaders, and when among the leaders appear some who are great in heart and mind and absolutely free from self-seeking, their impact will be enough to make the crudities and crimes of the present age impossible. A new golden age may come and last for a time and succumb to its own perfection. For ebb begins when the tide is at its highest. Questioner. Is there no such thing as permanent perfection? Maharaj. Yes, there is, but it includes all imperfection. It is the perfection of our self-nature that makes everything possible, perceivable, interesting. It knows no suffering, for it neither likes nor dislikes, neither accepts nor rejects. Creation and destruction are the two poles between which it weaves its ever-changing pattern. Be free from predilections and preferences, and the mind, with its burden of sorrow, will be no more. Questioner. But I do not suffer alone. There are others. Maharaj. When you go to them with your desires and fears, you merely add to their sorrows. First, be free of suffering yourself, and only then can you hope to help others. You do not even need to hope. Your very existence will be the greatest help a man can give his fellow men. I Am That talks with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. Chapter 60. Live facts, not fancies. Facts are real. I live among them, but you live with fancies. not with facts. Facts never clash, while your life and will are full of contradictions. Contradiction is the mark of the false. The real never contradicts itself. Questioner: you say that whatever you see is yourself. You also admit that you see the world as we see it. Here is today's newspaper with all the horrors going on. Since the world is yourself, how can you explain such misbehavior? Maharaj: which world do you have in mind? Questioner: our common world, the one in which we live. Maharaj: are you sure we live in the same world? I do not mean nature, the sea and the land, plants and animals. They are not the problem, nor are the endless space, the infinite time, the inexhaustible power. Do not be misled by my eating and smoking, reading and talking. My mind is not here. My life is not here. Your world of desires and their fulfillment, of fears and their escapes, is definitely not my world. I do not even perceive it, except through what you tell me about it. It is your private dream world, and my only reaction to it is to ask you to stop dreaming. Questioner: surely wars and revolutions are not dreams. Sick mothers and starving children are not dreams. Wealth, ill-gotten and misused, is not a dream. Maharaj: what else? Questioner: a dream cannot be shared. Maharaj: nor can the waking state. All three states, waking, dreaming, and sleeping, are subjective, personal, and intimate. They all happen to and are contained within the little bubble in consciousness called I. The real world lies beyond the self. Questioner: self or no self, facts are real. Maharaj: of course facts are real. I live among them, but you live with fancies, not facts. Facts never clash, while your life and your world are full of contradictions. Contradiction is the mark of the false. The real never contradicts itself. For instance, you complain that people are abjectly poor, yet you do not share your riches with them. You mind the war next door, but you hardly give it a thought when it is in some far-off country. The shifting fortunes of your ego determine your value. I think, I want, I must are made into absolutes. Questioner: nevertheless, the evil is real. Maharaj: not more real than you are. Evil is in the wrong approach to problems created by misunderstanding and misuse. It is a vicious cycle. Questioner: can the cycle be broken? Maharaj: a false circle need not be broken. It is enough to see it as it is, non-existent, existent. Questioner: but real enough to make us submit to and inflict indignities and atrocities. Maharaj: insanity is universal. Sanity is rare, yet there is hope, because the moment we perceive our insanity, we are on the way to sanity. This is the function of the Guru, to make us see the madness in our daily living. Life makes you conscious, but the teacher makes you aware. Questioner: sir, you are neither the first nor the last. Since time immemorial, people were breaking into reality. Yet how little it affected our lives. The Ramas and the Krishnas, the Buddhas and the Christs have come and gone, and we are as we are, wallowing in sweat and tears. What have the great ones done whose lives we witnessed? What have you done, sir, to alleviate the world's suffering? Maharaj, you alone can undo the evil you have created. Your own callous selfishness is at the root of it. First, put your own house in order, and you will see that your work is done. Questioner. The men of wisdom and of love who came before us did set themselves right, often at a tremendous cost. What was the outcome? A shooting star, however bright, does not make the night less dark. Maharaj. To judge them and their work, you must become one of them. A frog in a well knows nothing about the birds in the sky. Questioner. Do you mean to say that between good and evil there is no wall? Maharaj. There is no wall because there is no good and no evil. In every concrete situation there is only the necessary and the unnecessary. The needful is right, the needless is wrong. Questioner. Who decides? Maharaj. The situation decides. Every situation is a challenge which demands the right response. When the response is right, the challenge is met and the problem ceases. If the response is wrong, the challenge is not met and the problem remains unsolved. Your unsolved problems, that is what constitutes your karma. Solve them rightly and be free. Questioner. You seem to drive me always back into myself. Is there no objective solution to the world's problems? Maharaj, the world's problems are created by numberless people like you, each full of their own desires and fears. Who can free you of your past, personal and social, except yourself? And how will you do it unless you see the urgent need of your first being free of cravings born of illusion? How can you truly help as long as you need help yourself? Questioner. In what way did the ancient sages help? In what way do you help? A few individuals profit, no doubt. Your guidance and example may mean a lot to them. But in what way do you affect humanity, the totality of life and consciousness? You say that you are the world, and the world is you. What impact have you made on it? Questioner. Maharaj, what kind of impact do you expect? Questioner. Man is stupid, selfish, and cruel. Maharaj. Man is also wise, affectionate, and kind. Questioner. Why does goodness not prevail? Maharaj. It does. In my real world. In my world, even what you call evil is the servant of the good and therefore necessary. It is like boils and fevers that can clear the body of impurities. Disease is painful, even dangerous, but if dealt with rightly, it heals. Questioner. Or kills? Maharaj. In some cases, death is the best cure. A life may be worse than death, which is but rarely an unpleasant experience, whatever the appearances. Therefore, pity the living, never the dead. This problem of things being good and evil in themselves does not exist in my world. The needful is good and the needless is evil. In your world, the pleasant is good and the painful is evil. Questioner. What is necessary? Maharaj. To grow is necessary. To outgrow is necessary. To leave behind the good for the sake of the better is necessary. Questioner. To what end? Maharaj. The end is in the beginning. You end where you start, in the absolute. Questioner. Why all this trouble then to come back to where I started? Maharaj. Whose trouble? Which trouble? Do you pity the seed that is to grow and multiply until it becomes a mighty forest? Do you kill an infant to save him from the bother of living? What is wrong with life? Ever more life. Remove the obstacles to growing, and all your personal, social, economic, and political problems will just dissolve. The universe is perfect as a whole, and the parts striving for perfection is a way of joy. Willingly sacrifice the imperfect to the perfect, and there will be no more talk about good and evil. Questioner, yet we are afraid of the better and cling to the worst. Maharaj, this is your stupidity verging on insanity.